welcome to Overcome Podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk with my friend Greg McCoy, NPC, bodybuilding competitor, 12 years experience in the personal training field, and a lot of information to share about some of his injuries over the years, mainly around his experience in turning his bicep and how he recovered, the things that he has done, and some other very insightful information. Greg McCoy, my friend, welcome to Overcome Podcast. Really glad to have you here. It was about time to have you. I mean, it's supposed to be the first one, and you are on the episode 7 now.
Hey, Yuri, thank you, man. It's great to be here, and that's not surprising at all. We're two busy guys, and then you're an efficient guy, so it doesn't surprise me at all that you're already 7 episodes in. But I'm glad we could connect and talk about getting hurt.
Getting hurt and getting better,
Yep,
which
exactly.
is something that I know that you have a lot of stories to tell. But
Hey,
uh,
if you push the envelope and push the limits, sometimes you find it. That's kind of part of a part of pushing it, right?
yeah, I remember you saying that to me exactly on the day that I have this injury.
Yep.
Which was 65 days ago. It feels like yesterday, but at the same time, it feels like an eternity to not be back
Yeah.
and doing the things that I love. But switching gears here, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is because when I first met in 2010, 2011, you just recently had torn your biceps doing deadlifts, I think, and I think it was like a power building competition, something like that, right?
Yeah, I was in an SPF powerlifting meet that we were hosting at Metroflex Plano when I owned Metroflex Plano. And you want me to tell the story real quick
Of
about
course, yeah. I want to hear
yeah.
everything.
Okay, yeah. So a powerlifting meet, for those of you that don't know, consists of 3 lifts, a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. You get 3 attempts at each lift, and then whoever has the most weight added up from their best lifts wins their weight class or their division. Since I had been training for this in my first powerlifting meet, I squatted, I think, 670, which was awesome. I got some powerlifter respect out of that one. And then I came to the bench press and I failed. I completed the lift. I can't remember what the weight was. I think 430 or 440, somewhere in there. And I failed not because I couldn't lift it, but I kept lifting my butt off the seat. As a bodybuilder, we don't we lift differently than competitive lifters.
Hmm.
So and why I tell that story is because at that point, if you fail one of the lifts, you're disqualified. So I technically got disqualified during the bench press. But since I had trained for this, and because I was the host, I made my case to the judges. Hey guys, I know that it doesn't count. I'm disqualified, but let me pull my deadlifts. Like, I've been training hard for this. I want to pull the deadlifts. So they're like, sure, Greg, of course. So I open up with what will be a PR for me, which is a 530.
You
And
started with that. Was your first lift?
yeah, my first lift was a 530 deadlift, and I hit it. So I was already like ecstatic. That was a PR for me at the time. I got the lift. So at this point, everything is bonus. And so my training partner at the time, Craig Koffler, kind of helped me prepare for this meet. He said, I'm gonna give him your weight, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. So I was like, all right, man, do it. If it doesn't scare me, then it's not heavy enough. So he ups my PR by just 10 pounds, 540 on the bar. Um, and he tells me right before, I'm like, hey, it's 540, so I'm getting psyched up. The 530 was like, it did not come up easy. It was a fight. So anything above that, and at the end of the day, was going to be difficult. But anyways, I'm getting myself psyched up, and I grip the bar. And if you've ever seen a powerlifting meet, it's a very exciting moment. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you're kind of smacking each other around. You're getting yourself ready for this maximum strength event. And so I yanked the bar up. The bar flies off the ground. And then about 3/4 of the way up, I feel this like Velcro tearing sensation inside my bicep. But I didn't. I had so much adrenaline. I didn't really. It didn't hurt. But I obviously I knew in my mind my bicep just ripped. But I kept going with the lift. Like it wasn't a sudden pain that made me stop. So I locked out the lift. I got my white lights and I set it down. And I told her we were doing this interview, so we were kind of talking about it this morning. And she's like, "I'll never forget it. You just like calmly looked at me like a psychopath and said, I just tore my bicep." And I just walked off like, like I got to take a call, something like completely like nobody believed me because I've seen bicep tears in powerlifting meets, and it usually looks horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
But whatever
And the
reason,
pain,
I
and the
guess
pain. Everyone that has a bicep
yeah,
tear usually said they're extremely painful. So I'm really surprised you
yeah.
didn't feel pain.
The pain came. Trust me, I felt all of it, but not in that moment. In that moment, I finished my lift, and I knew what had happened, and I set the bar down, and I walked off, and sure enough, just like the stories, tell, like my bicep started to slide into my shoulder because it was disconnected at that point. So yeah, that was how it happened.
Wow, wow. So you said that the pain came after. So you didn't feel anything during the time. I mean, not you just felt that sensation, but not really that sharp pain because people say there's usually sharp pain.
Honestly, I don't remember it being painful. I know that I felt like a Velcro separation sensation. It's nothing I've ever felt before, thank goodness. But it felt like, Velcro within my muscle just tearing apart. I don't know if I could hear it. I feel like I could, but it was obvious to me what happened. But I mean, I'm not like pain adverse. Like, I feel pain. I wouldn't even say I have the highest pain tolerance. Like of the people I train with, I would say I'm average on pain tolerance. So I don't know, but because I didn't just drop it. Like you think if something hurt,
Yep,
I would have
exactly.
reacted, but I didn't. I finished the lift and I set it back down, and I just I told Tana like, hey, I just tore my bicep, and I bolted for the lobby.
Wow. Well, that is what are you doing the deadlift over under with the hands?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
one that you got torn, it was the over or the under?
The under, and that's the concern with that grip style,
I
and
don't like that grip style, man. I never do deadlift with that grip style.
I don't advise it either unless you're a competitive powerlifter, and even then, if you can learn what's called the hook grip, that's a safer option. But I've learned that bodybuilders, or people that train a lot of biceps that try powerlifting, it happens because what you get into the position where the weight starts to stick, and your body's smart. It tries to do anything it can to get the weight to the top. And if you're used to using your biceps, you'll inadvertently try to curl, and you can't curl 540 pounds. That's never going to work. So
Hmm.
it curled until it snapped.
Yeah. But is it mandatory to use that grip for powerlifting?
No,
No.
no. You're stronger that way, like because most bodybuilders, and myself included, will train with straps a lot of the times because we're more interested in fatiguing our back than our grips. So our grips are weaker. So a lot of times the over/under grip can give you a grip advantage because there's some pushing pressure into the bar, not just your grip. But a lot of guys that want to continue doing a double overhand, and you're not allowed to use straps in a competition, will use what's called a hook grip. But that takes practice. It's not something, you can't walk up to the bar and try to do your best lift of your entire life and use a new grip style for the first
Do
time.
you believe that you will have the same injury if you were doing a different grip?
No, had I trained with using a hook grip, I don't think I would have injured myself.
Okay. Because you probably, as you said, you probably try to curl, right?
Yeah, because if you use a hook grip, both your hands can be in the overhand
Yeah.
position, and that alleviates most all of the risk for a bicep tear. There's a lots of risks in a max effort deadlift. It's not the safest thing you can try in the gym,
Yeah.
but it alleviates most of the risk from a bicep tear.
But how it was. Okay, so you walk away like very calmly and everything. And I remember seeing the pictures where when the bruise start to come down pretty bad,
Yeah.
horrible purple. I mean, all across your arm. And did you do any surgery to put that back?
Yeah, so I went immediately to the hospital. It was pretty obvious. All they could do is really give me painkillers. And I forget what my age was at the time, maybe 20, 23. And I had already been pretty successful in bodybuilding. Getting a good repair was important to me. So I went to the Texas Rangers doctor, Dr. Kevin Meister, and he was able to get me in within a week. So I had a week of unrepaired bicep, and I had a lot of bleeding, which thankfully it didn't happen, but they were very worried about compartmental syndrome, which is where your body walls off a part of the body, and if that happens, it can lead to even amputation. So it got dangerous there to wait the full week, but they checked on me, and they thought that the repair was going to be a reattachment. Um, but turns out once they got into the arm, so I was put under, um, to get my bicep reattached.
Hmm.
And then when I woke up, they informed me that um, after I ate graham crackers and whatever, came back to life, they informed me that it was worse than they
Oh
thought.
wow.
My bicep tendon actually exploded. It didn't just like tear, like the whole thing was obliterated. So I woke up to the news that they had installed an Achilles tendon from a cadaver in place of my bicep tendon. So I
Wow.
no longer have a bicep tendon. I have someone else's Achilles tendon holding my bicep on.
That is crazy. Wow. I didn't know that. All those years and
Yeah.
I never knew that this was the secrets for your biceps.
Yeah, yeah. So I think had I known, I would have requested like a sprinter or an Olympic high jumper, who in years past. I don't know whose bicep I got. That's there. They don't release that information, but I did get to write an anonymous letter to thank them.
Wow. Jeez, that's crazy. Now, in between, I'm sure that in between the time that you had the injury and the surgery, you took completely off from exercising, right? You didn't go to the gym, you did anything, right?
Well, at my profession as a personal trainer and gym owner, I was still at the gym every day. A brand new entrepreneur, I couldn't afford not to go to the gym, but I did no exercise.
Okay, so you were not training, and then you had the surgery, and how long it was the recovery until you went back to train?
Yeah, so it was, and my timeline will be a bit blurry here, but it was 14 weeks. The progression basically was I was in a sling um, for probably, I don't know, 2 to 4 weeks. I know that the week after my surgery, I went to the Arnold Classic. Um, and I actually worked as a photographer at the show as a way to get there. And then I had some clients in the Arnold Amateur, but that was within a week because I was on painkillers the whole time and I was in a sling for my freshly repaired bicep. And then from there, I was put into a brace where every week they would give me more and
Range
more
of motion, right? Yeah.
extension. Yeah, and then after 14 weeks, I lost the brace, and that was when I could start lightly using the arm again. But I think within not much longer after a week, I was able to start training the rest of my body, which I'm sure we'll get into, but was a big part of my successful recovery.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were young. You were way younger, but you just had a gym, as you said. You started that business right away. You were extremely involved. So I don't think that you actually felt that much psychologically the fact that you were not be able to train because you were, living the environment and you're doing your stuff. So it was not really a huge impact on your mental game, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest mental stress for me was when it first happened was, you know, I had just started to have some success in competing in bodybuilding. The only reason I did a powerlifting meet was to make me a better bodybuilder. I was trying to gain size. I had just won my first overall. I was already thinking about national level competing. And then to have a big muscle tear like that, and you see bad bicep repairs, will I be good at bodybuilding again?
Hmm.
I don't know. So that was stressful prior to, and Dr. Meister put me at ease somewhat, but he couldn't promise that it would. He's like, I promise it'll work again. Good. It won't hold you back physically, but your sport is based on appearance. Will it look the same? I can't promise that. So that was the biggest stress for me was this going to impact, kind of my goals and dreams as a bodybuilder.
And honestly, I never noticed anything different from one bicep to the other. And I think when you do front double bicep, that there is no difference on symmetry or anything. So it was a really good job.
Yeah, it there is no visual evidence that I can tell, especially looking at the poses. And if anything, it stands up just a tad bit taller. So that's kind of my secret weapon. I tore my bicep to get some extra peak. Um, but I will say, for the first time ever, I did a DEXA scan this year. I've done a lot of submersion tests for my body fat, to track all of that. Well, I did a DEXA scan this year, and they actually take, um, you get muscle weight by the limb. And so I found out, and it surprised me, but my left arm was a full 1 pound lighter than my right arm. So there is some atrophy in there. Why you can't see it, I'm not sure, but they measure the same, and they look the same, but there's a pound missing in there somewhere.
Wow, that's interesting. Because
Yeah.
I mean, 1 pound is a lot. If you think
Yeah, for an
about,
arm, I mean, it's not a heavy, most of your weight's not in your
yeah,
limbs.
that's
So,
crazy. 1 pound is a lot. I'm surprised with
yeah.
that. And it was the Texas State, the first championship that you compete after this injury.
No, I did. I actually ended up getting ready a little early, and TJ, who was on the show with you earlier, TJ and I did the Heart of
Oh, the
Texas.
Heart of Texas. Yeah.
Um,
So the Heart of Texas, when I met you in 2011.
that's when I met you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was my
So
show
that
there.
was your comeback show. How did
Mhm.
you do on that
And
show?
so, man, so the bicep tear was in February, and that show was in September. So I always tell people that because I've interact with a lot of people with torn biceps, unfortunately, in this world. A lot of that's a common injury in our sport. But I tell them, hey, I tore my bicep in February, and I was competing and winning again in September. So I did well. I got second place at that show, I believe, in the light heavyweights class. And I looked great. I was really happy with it. That wasn't the show I intended to do. I was getting ready for Texas State, and that show was maybe 3, 4 weeks early, and I was ready in advance, so I went ahead and did it.
So when you had the injury, you basically did you keep the same diet, or were you more strict on diet because you were not exercising?
Yeah, so that was my approach. Basically, for the powerlifting meet, I was really trying to gain size, so my calories were high. I was lifting heavy, and then I got hurt, and I was very dedicated to my training. I still trained all three body parts, and I essentially went into a prep style diet. I said, well, if I can't get bigger, I at least will get in shape. So I dieted hard, and I was small because I couldn't train properly really. Um, but I dieted really hard and I got into good condition. And that way, when the summer came and I was able to start training again, I could start to, increase the calories and kind of grow into my bodybuilding prep.
Hmm.
So it worked out to be a good plan for me.
But why did you say that keep training the other muscles was really important to you? Because were you never concerned about train biceps, for example, in one side, while the other one is still not functional?
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about the match I knew like that my training, even, doing one arm, I probably wouldn't make progress on that arm. It was pretty much going to be maintaining. But I did some cool shit. Like I know that I have a picture of this somewhere, but I did a 140-pound incline press with one arm, which was like a pretty impressive feat because I would hold the torn arm off to the side and press with one arm, and you get a little bit of rotational advantage with that lift. But yeah, anyways, I knew that I wouldn't improve the other sides of my body
Hmm.
while I was hurt, just because the training it wouldn't be as good. So I was like, I'm going to train full bore and hope to maintain myself on the other limbs. And then when this arm gets better, I'll catch it back up. Um, but I think the real advantages came from the recovery aspect because training it's so good for your body as a whole, not just the muscle that's getting worked. So while I did no direct work on the my left upper body, well, really just this left limb. I mean, I still used my abdominals and erectors and all those
Hmm.
things. That stimulation and circulation and the hormonal environment and all the benefits that you get from training still applied to that arm, even though it wasn't getting direct work. And I would go into the doctor, and they were just continually very impressed with the recovery that I was able to do, and it shows. I mean, I was competing, 9 months, 7 months later,
Yeah.
so it worked well.
No, absolutely, and Chip has the same problem, torn biceps,
Yeah.
and he was saying the same thing about the recovery process, the importance of keep training the other body parts that will help the other arm.
Yeah.
That
I think it's big here too,
hmm.
to feel like you still have a purpose to get in there, and you can still, while it might not be the same progress you would have made, it's still progress to some degree, and you're going to shorten that comeback time dramatically.
Now, when this is a question that I always ask regarding injuries, when you came back 14 weeks after and you start training the biceps after the surgery and the healing and everything, were you a lot? Did you have any hesitant moment of I'm not gonna pull this too hard? I mean, it was like a very progressive and slow come back, the strength level and the confidence level.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and for me, like, and anyone that enjoys bodybuilding, you're obviously interested in how the body functions, and to me, it was kind of like this amazing science experiment that I got to participate in. So I pull my arm out of this cast for the first time, right? And it's like, it was maybe 18, 19 inches, and now it's like 12, It looks weird. Like I have a picture, I'll try to send it to you if it helps for the content, but I have a picture of me holding up both arms, and one is like a 12-year-old boy, and one looks like a competitive bodybuilder, and it was strange, And I had atrophy all in my chest because I couldn't really press, the left side of my back,
Shoulders, probably.
yeah, shoulder, everything. That whole side was just like, was so thin. But it was because I stayed so lean, it was really strange. It looked like very ripped, but like with very small muscles. So I looked like a ripped child on that arm. But it was weird though. I started with 5 pound dumbbells or whatever, and slowly made progress. And even competing, so maybe I was out of what's 14 weeks after February? That'd be March, April, May. So say by June, I'm back training full speed or training with all my limbs. Even in September when I competed, I was far from full strength, but I had full size.
Hmm.
So that's always kind of an interesting point is that my muscle size came back, but it took me probably a year to fully supinate my arm. I mean, I couldn't do an underhand pull up or row or anything for a year or more. So the
But
size came back.
because you were not feeling confident or because it hurt?
Function. I mean, my arm, I don't know if you can see on the video, but my arm wouldn't go past here. And it took a year to gain full
Oh,
supination,
really?
with
Wow.
physical therapy and exercise.
Wow.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
just
for me
didn't
to
go.
do this, it just was like pushing against something that wasn't going to move, and it took a year to get full supination back, and then finally I would start to trust it again. I mean, just out of
Well, so
fear, I
how
didn't
were you
do.
doing curls without supinating your hand? Were you doing just with dumbbells?
Yeah, hammer curls or an easy bar curl, you
Yeah,
don't have
right.
supination. And I would try to grab a light barbell and force myself into a supination position, not for the movement, but just for therapy.
Hmm. That was a difficult prep.
Yeah, yeah, it was different, but it was cool. Like, it was strange that the muscles were so much weaker, but still could look the same. So that's pretty amazing.
And how long it was between that picture that you took where you have like a 12 years old biceps until you feel like wow, that's pretty cool, like a month or less than a month? Oh, more than a month
And I
actually.
don't remember. I mean, it was 3 months until I was, second place as a light heavyweight in Texas, which is no small feat.
Yeah, no, you were huge. I remember that day.
So yeah, I don't remember how long the size came back, but it was quick. I mean, it was like, you're growing by the day almost
Yeah,
as you
I
start
feel
to do
like
muscle.
it is less than a month because I was not in a cast. I was in a what they call split from my knee down, and for probably 5 weeks. Last week I took off this split and then put a boot. But at home I removed the boot. I just put the boot to leave the house. And last week
Mm,
was the first week that my calf started to move. So
yeah,
it was like dead, right? It was like very
yeah,
soft, like ridiculous thin. I was like, man, that looks terrible. And then on this first day, I started using and just making some movement. On the next day, I was so sore. I mean, I was so
yeah,
sore that I thought it felt like a heavy workout just because I started moving again.
yeah.
I'm not sure if you felt this when you start moving your arm, but the soreness was ridiculous.
Man, I honestly, I wish I remember. I really don't. I'm sure that it was probably like, you don't use a muscle for 3 months. It's gonna get beat up pretty bad from doing very little.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but you also told me that you had some others injury. That was probably the most scary one because you had to do surgery.
Yeah,
But you have
definitely.
problem on the knee as well?
Yeah, I had a meniscus tear. Um, I think that I did it leg pressing in college.
No, but
But that
no
was
surgery, right?
no, I had surgery. But it was pretty minor. Like my knee was just getting very sore. I couldn't keep it. Like driving was very painful for me. Like a long drive, like driving from Oklahoma back to Texas when I was in college, my knee would get really, really stiff, and so I had some pain, but it wasn't like I worked through the pain. It wasn't like debilitating, and then I finally got it checked out, and it was a torn meniscus, and a meniscus doesn't get blood supply, so it's basically you don't even repair it really. They just kind of trim it to help it hurt less. And so I had a scope done on that. I think I was on crutches maybe 3, 4 days and out of training, 2 weeks to a month at max. It was not a big setback though.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely the bicep was the biggest one that you probably
Yeah.
had. And
And then I've had some minor tears. Thank God they were minor enough to kind of keep you honest though. But I had actually on my VMO, so the teardrop muscle of your quad, on each leg, I've had an incident where I felt a very minor version of what I felt in my biceps. So I felt kind of a very minor Velcro sensation
mhm.
in my teardrop. And so the first time was really stupid of me because I couldn't tell, like, did I feel that or not? Like that felt like the Velcro, but I wasn't certain and it didn't hurt. And I finished my workout. So that was risky. And I remember the first one happened. And I was training with Max Fairchild, who's an animal. And, I was doing 400-pound barbell squats after I did that. And then the next day it was like a dark purple circle and it was raised. And so I got it checked out and it was kind of a micro tear. And that took about a month. And then I did the same thing on the other quad. and but same thing. It was like, about a month of being careful, and I got some therapy done. I did a lot of dry needling, really helped with that
Yeah.
one. Um, and yeah, so dry needling and just taking care of the area, and then it came back.
During the recovery from the tear biceps that you had,
Yeah.
did you had any sort of special supplementation to help recovery, aside from vitamin D, probiotics, anything that you was reading at that time that you said, well, this probably is going to help through my healing process?
Yeah, I was using, man, it's been a while. I know that I was heavy obviously on glutamine and more of a dose of, I always recommend a baseline multivitamin, but I think I was just doubling up on that. I was, using fish oil for inflammation. I think that the doctor may have had me on low dose aspirin.
Hmm.
To prevent clotting and stuff
Right.
because I have a compartmental syndrome. But that was really it. I mean, it was nothing more than I really did on a regular basis because this was, most of the kind of minor injuries I've had have been done to the joint, which this was a muscle tear. So it was, though the muscle is actually, I think, I guess it was really a tendon, not the muscle, but it was soft tissue nonetheless. So, blood supply was the big thing versus, a lot of these joint issues, you're wanting to take things, to regrow that the soft tissue the connective tissue.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting. Because there are some supplements I've been reading that can help, with healing process and everything. But my doctor also said just make sure that you have a lot of vitamin D. Is probably the most important one for you at this point.
Had I torn my bicep within the past two years, my program would have probably been much more advanced. But at 23, I think it was like, man, throw some glutamine and some multivitamins on it and hope that it grows back right.
Yeah, I'm taking glutamine too, for sure. But yes, definitely. And
And then certainly, I'm sure that I did this too. Just knowing where my head was at that time, I'm sure that I was heavy on the aminos just because I was probably so scared to losing all my muscle,
mhm.
right? So, I can guarantee you my mindset back then, as soon as I knew I was going to be out of the gym, I was still on a high protein diet and I was still slamming amino acids for both repair and for, to prevent muscle loss. That was the big fear for me.
Did you drop carbs? So because as you said, you basically started like a prep diet. So did you drop
Yeah, I
carbs?
was pretty much into a contest prep diet, and I was, yeah, so it was lower carb. I probably kept some fats in, if I remember, just for the anti-inflammatory effect. But I was doing fasted cardio and the whole nine, to just try to get kind of ripped, even since I couldn't get big.
Yeah, that's always a good plan. I kept the same diet that we were working before. I basically kept the same thing. I just actually removed in half the amount of carbs. I try to decrease the carbs too. And 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks ago, I started lifting again, upper body. Uh, Lightweight right now, very light, doing a lot of bands, doing a lot of things like that, because I still don't cannot do a lot of things standing. So a lot of bench press, flies, shoulders, chest, arms. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's helping to keep myself sane, right? Because those initial 4 weeks without lifting were mind-wrecking. I mean, I was feeling extremely depressed, to be honest. Yeah, it was horrible. And that's what
I'm
I
glad
said.
to.
You never had this problem because even if you were not working out, you were within the environment and you were like,
Yeah.
living that moment. So, and at that point, you also had the your head focused on the gym because you just opened that gym during that time.
Yeah, so I would say the psychological side for me was not a big problem. I definitely feel for your situation, and I may have hurt more for yours than for mine psychologically because I've been coaching you for a decade now, and man, we were really hitting stride with your
Yeah.
program. I can't remember a time in training with Yuri where I've been adding food and you were dropping body weight and body
Yeah,
fat.
that was great, man. That was a great feeling, making really good progress, and thing happens. But again, it usually it happens when you just are not. It's not a situation that you can prevent, and this is what I keep telling. I told my wife, said, look, the movement that I did is something that I always did before. I said it's nothing new. It was just bizarre, you know. It happens. It's like you did this deadlift many times using the same grip,
Yeah,
everything the same. Of course, the weight was the big difference because that was beyond your PR.
sure.
But other than that, I mean, and TJ was telling me about his injury. He was playing around.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. He said, "Well, I wish I had a good story like Greg to tell about my tear, but it was not."
Yeah, and those are probably have to be the most frustrating ones. I can only imagine how mad at yourself you would be. Yours was at least in a competitive scenario, as was mine. It's to get hurt in search of your goal is one thing, but to get hurt, kind of in an extraneous reason has to be the most frustrating one I can imagine. And I was, obviously very close with TJ. We still are close, but we were working together extremely closely at the time. So I spent a lot of time with him while he was recovering, and I know that was driving him nuts.
Yeah. It's funny because you were out of the bodybuilding scene for at least probably a couple of years, where you start doing a bunch of crazy other stuff like marathon running and like what he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
And you never had any injury during those time, right?
Yeah, luckily, and I didn't pick any non-injury prone sports either. I mean, racing motocross, like half those guys, when you go drink beer with a couple motocross riders, all they do is list off all the bones they've broken. But thankfully, I made it through probably a 3-year stint there of, I was doing some motocross and endurance triathlon. The triathlon's pretty safe. The adventure racing stuff, that's you get banged up a little bit, but
Hmm.
yeah, I made it through all of that, luckily unscathed
So
for
you
the most
never
part.
fell, you never fell from the motorcycle.
Oh yeah, I crashed. I crashed. I had some hard crashes, and I had a concussion. Was the worst probably injury sustained, and I had a shoulder that I landed on hard a couple times. But it never, it was a pain in the butt for a few months, but it was nothing that like it didn't break any bones or tear anything,
Hmm.
thankfully.
Yeah, because that's pretty dangerous. Were you jumping
And
as well?
that's actually why I stopped because motocross is one of those sports, and for those of you that have done it can attest to this, that in that sport, the better you get, the more dangerous it is. Because when you're not very good, you're not going very fast. It's more of like a tip over,
Well, but when
or
you are really good, don't you feel that you have more control?
sure, and that's why I didn't get hurt because I never, where your limit's at. Like you can ride a motocross track at a point where this is as fast as I can go under control. When you start to race people, you to get an edge or to keep up with them, you go as fast as you can go plus some.
Hmm.
And you might be able to sustain that for a while, but chances are you'll make a mistake because it's faster than your skill set allows for. And I would just never allow myself to get there. And even now, like I ride sport bikes, on the track, and for that very reason, I do not have a lap timer, and I do not race people because I want to keep it fun. And wherever my skill set tops out at, I'm gonna ride just under
Yeah.
that because I'm not going to earn a living doing that. It's not worth, and my happiness is directly related to my body working
Yep.
right. So I'll go do it, and it's a little risky, but I'm going to do it in the safest way that I
Makes
can.
sense. Makes sense. Yeah, that's why you were able to do for so long and never got really hurt. In
Yeah.
that.
Even then, though, like stuff happens on those bikes a lot. So I do feel lucky that I never, seriously hurt myself.
Yeah, those years away from bodybuilding taught you a lot of things as well. As you said,
Yeah.
the triathlon was pretty safe, but I mean things can happen. That as you were always big and running a lot, knee problems never came. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's the nature of sport. Like, it's not that I went through all those times pain free. I think anytime you're athletic, especially in a competitive environment, it's all about pain management and being smart. So it's taking time off or it's rehabbing things. You're kind of always in the state of that. I don't know anyone that, at least competes in bodybuilding that doesn't have a list of things that bother them.
Mm.
But if you can avoid serious injury, obviously, is what you need to do.
Yeah, that's the thing. We need to. If we don't do anything, we're gonna have a different type of pain, right? Because
Yeah.
our muscle will not be functioned properly. When we try to use it, it will be painful. And if we train hard,
Yeah.
we're gonna have the soreness and other type of pain. So it will be pain management no matter what. So why not doing for the sake of getting better physically, right? Uh,
Yeah, and I just actually, it's good timing because over the weekend, I just finished. It's a certification I've been trying to get for a couple of years now. I finally completed it, but a pain-free performance certification. So it's all about addressing and preventing pain while performing at a high level. So that's as I get older and still try to push the envelope, being smart becomes more and more important. And then certainly working with clients, it's important skill set for
yeah,
me. So it's part of
I
the
saw
game.
your story yesterday. You saying that after 12 years you're still learning how to do a squat. I was like, wow, that's a deep statement right there.
Yeah, yeah. 12 years as a professional trainer, and I'm still learning how to squat.
Did you learn anything new on
So that's
that?
I did. I did. You always pick up something new when you're talking to experts in the field, and I think that we really got into assessing positions based on body type. Not that that's something I haven't addressed before, but this was a new angle on it, and really being able to assess and measure individuals and and
Oh,
and how they can squat pain
I'm.
free. Because there's a lot of people that can squat heavy, but it hurts a lot
Mhm.
too. So, how to take somebody into a more natural squat position for their body was what we were really focusing on, and I picked up a few tips for myself.
I'm not sure if they covered that, but what was their opinion about the depth of the squat? As to the grass, or just 90 degrees, or it depends? What is the most effective?
Yeah, completely depends on your body. To say that everyone should squat ass to grass is fallacy. That's not true, and not everyone should do that. Not even everyone should barbell squat. In fact, we learned, and this was one of the coolest things from the course, was the squat is a movement type. There's 100 types of squats you can do: goblet squat, a front squat, a box squat, a safety bar squat, a zercher squat. There's hundreds. And the barbell squat, while it's the most basic, is the most difficult version of the squat that anyone can
Hmm.
do. So I think it's not to learn that not everyone needs to barbell squat, and find the squat that's best for you and make the progress there.
Yeah, I love this approach because there is this myth in the bodybuilding industry that you gotta go as to grass in order to grow your legs, otherwise you're cheating, not working. And we know big guys like Dan Newmeyer, and he never did that, and he
Mhm.
always was very uh, um, um, uh, about the range of motion, the right range of motion to your body type. So it varies according to the person.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my friend. So I think we are exactly on time. Thank you very much for all the insight, knowledge of 12 years of personal training, many years of competitive bodybuilding, motocross, triathlons, so many things.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to work together again next year as I come back. I always like a comeback. I want to make this one an epic one. In everything that I do, I go 100%, and I think that next year will be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to your comeback as well, and congratulations on this podcast. I think it was a great way to turn lessons that you're learning into something that benefits others, and pulling together these stories of how people overcame injuries and setbacks, and sharing that with others. So I know for me, I've personally given so much torn bicep advice over the years that I'll look forward to sharing this
Yeah.
episode with
And
them
next time you
from
just
here
send
on
the
out.
link here, everything you need to know about it.
Yep. Yeah. Here's the story. Here's the recovery. Let me know if there's any more questions. Comment on Yuri's podcast.
Yes. All right, my friend. Thank you very much again. Congratulations on the excellent work. I've seen how Hidden Gene has grown a lot these days. You really beat COVID in all aspects. COVID didn't stop the gene to grow, and that's amazing. I've seen how busy you are, and that's always good.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
And just if you are in the DFW area, make sure to visit Hidden Gene in Allen, right?
That's it. Come see us.
All right. Take care, my friends. See you next time.
All right. Bye, Yuri.